Welcome to the Mental Insights Podcast, a conversation aimed at understanding all sides of mental health, addiction recovery, and homelessness. Each interview will include one's personal experiences and insights, or an expert's advice and knowledge within one of these fields. The goal is to promote awareness, guidance, and support for anyone who is affected by these challenges. Thank you all for listening. Welcome to the Mental Insights Podcast. This is your host, Brendan.cutuli. We are here today for Season 2, Episode number 9 with Stef Mir, and we are here for Part 2 of this episode where we'll be speaking about his book, Redesign Your Mind. In the previous episode, Stef spoke about his own journey through mental health, a little bit about what he's faced with anxiety and depression, and why this is a meaningful story to share with others and to show you that we are all the same. Within his book, Redesign Your Mind, he speaks about his own personal experiences as well as steps to move forward in terms of resources and in terms of conversational changes that we could have within the mental health field. To really bring about, what your book is, can you explain the premise of Redesign Your Mind? And for anybody who wants to know, it was launched in August 21st, 2019, and the link will be provided below in the show notes if you guys want to go read this book.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan, and thanks for listening again, guys. The premise of the book is basically that we've never played an active part in designing our thoughts and how we think. So you can change that. You can redesign how you think. A lot of the anxieties, depression, and insecurities we have are a result of how we've been brought up and what thoughts we've had implanted into our mind and what we've seen in society and on TV and what we've been conditioned to think. It's tying that in with my personal story, and it goes into a lot of those distortions I had in my own thinking and what I thought I needed to be happy and what I thought I needed to be successful and why it caused a lot of anxiety and depression. And it's pretty raw. There's some times there where some family members have read some of the parts and for one part I talk about one of those moments, which we might get into later, where me and my dad really had a moment where it really hit home that I was really low and really in the dumps. And sometimes your family is what gets you through those tough times. So yeah, it shares a lot of that, and hopefully it gives readers a good chance to relate to some of those tools and things you can do to help yourself on your journey.
Wonderful. You speak about a lot of these challenges that, there is today that you faced and a lot of people are facing as well, which is, I think, why this is such an important conversation to have. And, to peel back the layers, let's first talk about what is truly the challenge at hand, and then we'll go deep into your personal experience within this book. And, to start, what are people suffering with today, and at what age is this happening?
I think it starts really young. So it starts right from soon as consciousness, comes about. Kids are shown things on TV and shown all these good toys and things they need. And, you see kids now with iPhones already at a real young age. And if you don't have that, that's going to cause depressive thoughts if you don't have the right mindset. And it starts at a young age from your parents as well. So if your parents are negative in their mindset or their thinking, or they're putting pressure on their kids, that's going to cause a lot of those thoughts to start to grow and build. So yeah, that's where I think it starts. What they actually are struggling with is that comparison. So for me, I see, and for my own story, it was a comparison that I would think you need to be rich and successful to get a partner or to have a good family life, or um, you know, you get caught up in your career and things like that. And especially as an overachiever, things were always going to plan for me. So school was easy for me. Uni was easy. I had friends, I got to enjoy myself. I was making a lot of money for a young person as well, um, winning awards at work and things like that. So I kept raising that bar though. And whenever I did achieve something, it was, oh yeah, that's okay. What's next? And then, you know, I didn't expect to ever fail. And when I did have some struggles, I didn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with it. So I feel that a lot of people don't have any coping mechanisms, and I was one of those. And whatever it is that comes along, it might be a family situation or a relationship breakdown or losing a family member or losing your job is another big one too. One of these events will trigger something that you need to now have the coping mechanisms. And I feel that as a society, we're not taught how to deal with those things. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I would go with it.
Awesome. And, which you stated, educating at such a younger age is of the utmost importance because, this is where truly the foundational aspects is grown. And this is where I think those coping mechanisms could be in place at the forefront. And, your book is aimed towards millennials. So why don't you speak more about, what you're trying to do to educate the youth in order for them to develop themselves starting at a younger age?
Yeah, I think that as millennials, we were brought up thinking about being rich and famous. And, you look at with girls, they look at the Kardashians and a lot of those types of families as role models. And for guys, we would look at, big, muscly dudes and sports stars and movie stars and rich people and rappers and things like that. And they're who we idolize. And for me, as millennials, there's such a pressure to uh, be successful in some way. And we look at our parents, and in Australia, we're a little bit behind America and other countries in terms of how old we are as a country. So a lot of the people that came here with nothing, and that was our grandparents. And for them, just owning a house was the best thing in the world. Um, then our parents came along, and then they were able to build on that wealth. And there's a lot of middle class Australians that aren't rich, but they get by and do fairly well. And then I find for millennials, a lot of these challenges are already taken care of. That our lives are technically a lot easier. I mean, if I think of some of the things my grandpa went through, even just to make it here, and the wars they had to get through, and camps, and traveling by boat with nothing and coming here with nothing, no family, no friends, nothing. And we have such a privileged life. It then causes these anxieties and depressions, and what's my meaning, what's my purpose, what am I going to do to be special and different and to achieve? So as millennials, I think we really have to work on that meaning, because it's easy to be lost in this sea of just being like everyone else.
Such a great, topic to bring about because, there's so many ways that we need to, ground ourselves when we have these, aspirations or have these kind of, thought processes of like, we need to be here at this point or we need to be there. And if not, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be in the right place. And, you know, I think for some people it's knowing where you are, ground yourself and saying, all right, setting those kind of initial goals in order for you to try to itch away at making some of those larger goals within your life. And you can't just say, oh, I want to be, at this point in my life and I'm not going to act upon it. So, you know, what are kind of the, I'd say, like, benefits of just taking it a day at a time? And maybe what are some routines that someone can do to kind of ground themselves and make them be present rather than kind of in their imaginary aspect, having these insecurities and anxieties of what is to come?
Oh, there's so much to talk about there, Brendan. And I love what you said about, waiting to be happy. In my book, there's a section, what are you waiting for to be happy? Or when are you going to be happy? I think it's called. And we always put these goalposts out. And I mentioned, imagine if your life was, there's a set of goalposts, and every time you get to the goalposts move out further again. And you never actually get there. That's what a lot of people's lives is like. And mine was definitely the same. I would kick a goal and, oh no, the goals are over there now. I need to do that. So for me, it's about another section that ties in with this is counting the little wins. So every time something, no matter how small it is, recognize it and celebrate it. I mean, as a family tonight, where I'm going to my parents' house and we're going to celebrate something small that in the past I wouldn't have celebrated. I would have just thought, oh, yeah, that's a formality. But your mind doesn't know if it's a big win or a small win. It just knows that you're celebrating something. So that's one key thing in counting those little wins. But also, especially, I understand as an ambitious, driven type of person, we do have goals and we want to achieve them. Set the goal and get to work on it, but don't be happy when you get there. Be happy now. Be happy for the goals you've already kicked. Be happy and grateful for what you've already got, and set the new goal. And don't stress yourself to get there in the sense that if you don't achieve it, your life's over or it's a failure. Look at every failure as a part of your next success. And I'm going on so many tangents here, but another section is about, if you fail, it doesn't make you a failure, but is it even a failure if it leads to your next success? And what if you have 8 fails and then the 9th time you succeed? Does that mean you failed 8 times, or was that just the rocky path to success? So these are things you can do in your mind, and that ties in with, like I said in the first episode, rewriting your thoughts and writing the rational responses to the negative thought that comes in your mind first. These are the things we need to practice. And like I said in the first episode, as you go down, you need to put more of these things into place. When things are running all good, you don't need to write your thoughts every day or even every week. I probably write my thoughts out maybe once every month. Something might come up and it's on my mind, and I will then work on it. But otherwise, I just practice the little things, and it's all good.
As you were speaking, I kind of just had this thought of, when you're speaking about these types of, insecurities and anxieties that people, you create kind of this platform that you have to reach, or maybe it's just something that has been daunting that happened before, or it's something that's coming up in the future. And I think sometimes with, some of this angst and some of these challenges that can come up, oftentimes you just need to drop that weight off your shoulder and just kind of let it go and just forget about it, be present, and work to what you can do right now, and work within yourself in order to take that next step. And, I want to understand more about what is the benefits of just letting go of any type of feeling or emotion, if it's just holding you back due to this anxiety or depression.
So tying letting in go with, I guess, being present, I've studied a lot of mindfulness and meditation. So that's a great way to be present and also to let go. So if you are in the present moment, there's a saying that if you're totally present, you can't have anxiety or depression, because anxiety is thinking about the future and depression's thinking about the past. So I'm still learning. I mean, even, Buddhist monks have been doing it for 40 years and they still are learning, trying to practice mindfulness and meditation. But that's a good way to start anyway, just to practice. In terms of letting go, I was one of the worst people on holding on to something. If something bugged me or didn't go my way, I would really, let it eat me up inside. So one of the big benefits of letting go is you don't have that attachment to that negative energy. If you're ruminating about this negative event and you don't let go, it's going to eat you up inside. And now, literally the other day, something happened. Something didn't go my way with one of my friends. Something happened. I can't remember what. But I remember that in the past, I would have let that get on my mind and keep playing until, I sorted it out with my friend and told them how I felt. But now I said, well, what is that going to achieve? Nothing. What is me being frustrated about it going to achieve? Nothing. What are they thinking about me right now and this situation? Nothing. It never came into their mind, and I'm here stressing about it. So let's let it go and let's move on and let's focus on the things I'm grateful for. And even with that particular friend, the good things about them, and just let go. And I know it's easy for me to say, but just practice it. And it doesn't mean you'll let go like that, but by putting in those right thoughts and behaviors, you will eventually let go a lot quicker than if you just let it eat you up inside.
Certainly. For many who, let that eat them up and let them kind of create this angst or, create this depressive episode, whether it's something in the past or this anxiety for something in the future, usually when there are these emotions that are kind of culminating and just bringing about them, they lend themselves to be in, this lonely state. They tend to shy themselves into a corner, to stay by themselves, to, just sit in their thoughts. And it just kind of, continuously just, it really activates within themselves to just continue to eat at them. And we spoke a little bit about loneliness and the ways that it can cause harm within your own mental health. And for someone that may be feeling this or that may be experiencing this, it's hard to get out of that state. So for within your own experiences, what really was able to get you outside of that space, to be able to get up out of your bed, to get outside of your room, to reach out to one person, to step outside that state of loneliness?
Oh, great question. So I'm whenever I get a bill, I pay it within half an hour of getting the email or the letter. And I've never had a late bill. And when I was depressed, I had a stack of letters like that and bills. And I got my first ever late bill because it was just sitting there. I had a pile of bills sitting. I had the money. I just didn't have the energy or drive to even open my letters. I was that depressed. So I understand it's hard, right? But one of the things I talk about is you have to create your own energy. And by that, you have to say, right, I'm going to get up and open one letter and pay one bill. And you just have to tell yourself that you're going to make it happen, right? There's nothing physical other than your mind. Your mind is telling your body that you've got no energy and you're depressed. I'll relate that to something on the opposite spectrum that I talk about in the book. When you go and plan a beautiful holiday somewhere, you're going to somewhere you've never been before. You might be going to Europe and tasting something awesome in Italy and traveling the Amalfi Coast. When you get there, you feel that you can walk 20 miles a day. You can do so much. You can stay out all night. You've got so much energy, so much drive. When you checked in and you went through customs, they don't give you a shot of energy or a little tablet that says, hey, here's that extra energy you're going to need for this holiday. No, that's all from your mind, right? So that's a great example of how just how you can feel so low, you can feel so high and do so much that you thought you weren't capable of. So for me, you just have to get that ball rolling. And I know it's hard, but that's why I talked about in the first episode, find your meaning, find your reason why you're going to get up and pay that first bill, and then you'll do it. And then the momentum will come. It might take weeks, months, years even, but don't put the pressure on yourself that you need to get better by a certain date, like you mentioned before, Brendan. Just say, I'm going to get up and do one action to get started.
Awesome. It certainly is a great tip in order to, you can't set these kind of, boundaries for yourself of, I'm going to do this by then. And even what you're stating, I'm going to have this by then. So I'm going to have this much money, or I'm going to have this home, this just kind of creates the aspect that you're probably never going to do it. What you need to say is, I'm just going to do it now, and I'm going to work towards it, which is the first and the most important step. And within this conversation of loneliness, it brings about the conversation of why us as humans need that sense of connection and need that sense of, relationships within ourselves. And, when someone's lonely, when someone's experiencing these feelings of anxiety or depression, oftentimes they just need someone to listen to them, or they just need someone to have a conversation besides the struggles and what they're going through. For yourself, when was kind of the moment that you learned the importance of this connection, and speak about how that may be able to lift people up out of these, emotional daunting feelings and just, negative emotions, and how can relationships bring them out of a sense of loneliness?
Yeah, it's really important, Brendan. And I know some people don't have the family support that I did. So friends are even more important. But for me, you must spend time with your friends. Even if you have a strong family support, which I did, when I went through my major depression, I switched off all my friends. I didn't want to see them because I was ashamed. I wanted to work on myself. Um, and I said, I'll see them when I get better. And that was the wrong way to go about it. So that's when I learned, when I started to get better, um, soon as I started introducing my friends again, it snowballed even better and I got better quicker because the way I see it is even if you're depressed and really sad um, and you're down in the dumps and you see your friend for 1 hour and 55 minutes of that is um, not good and you're sad and this and that, but then for 5 minutes you have one little laugh or one joke is cracked or something makes you smile. That does so much for your brain and your mindset and your energy that we aren't even able to calculate it yet, how it works, but it's massively important. So I would say go out and see your friends as much as you can. And with that, choose the friends you see. I used to be one of those people that would engage the negative and I'd talk about my problems and keep going on and want sympathy. You actually want to spend time with the friends, believe it or not, that kind of make light of the situation. And they might make a joke or take the piss out of you. Oh, sorry, that's an Australian saying. I'm not sure if you know that, but make fun of you. And you might look at them and think, hang on a sec. And then you might laugh too. So it's just a way of short circuiting those negative thoughts and that you're really down in the dumps and you're the only one this has ever happened to. It's really try and make light of the situation. And that's where friends are really good for that too.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you shared that. And these connections are something that we really need to focus on and really have as an important tool in order to take that next step and treat ourselves accordingly. But I think that connection and the relationship you have with yourself is also of the utmost importance. And, to share a little bit about how you were able to gain a sense of, worth within yourself, I think is an important topic to share.
Yeah, it feels like you've read my book and you're just asking the questions I want to ask. But there's another section in the book that's called Be Your Own Best Friend. And so let's imagine this. One of your friends breaks up with their partner, your best friend, and they come around and, they come to see you for support. And you would say to them, look, it's okay. You'll find someone else. It's all good. Like, look at you. You're awesome. You're a great bloke. Um, you know, it's all going to be good, and you'll have a laugh about it, and it'll be all good from there. But with ourselves, we wouldn't do that. We would say something like, our life is over, we ruined it, we were cheated on, or something happened, and we'd focus on the negative. So what I'm saying to do is to change that. Become your best friend. Say to yourself, hey, you did try really hard. You did do good. You will find someone else, right? Be your best friend. And that ties in with one of the meditations I talk about in the book about finding your higher self and finding that subconscious self, what you really want. Deep down, you know what you really want, but it's all that bull crap that is put in front of us that we think we want that kind of makes it hard to find what it is that deep down you really want. So become your best friend and work on it that way.
Valuable piece of advice. I appreciate it, Steph. And this one question I love to ask my guests at the end of the episode, I think fully encompasses the work that you've done, what you've been able to learn thus far, and what you hope for the future. And it's going to be this hypothetical situation that in this situation, you're going to be given a large sum of money, say $1 billion. And within, this allocation of resources, I want you to share where you'd put it towards in order to help treat these people who've, within our society today are facing such a large amount of mental health challenges. So if you were the leader of this forefront, if you were the leader to help try to treat and manage all of the people who are experiencing anxiety and depression, within our society today, what would be your first steps in order to allocate these resources to help people who have experienced similar issues as yourself and who are experiencing this worldwide?
Yeah, I think we need another episode for me to go through this question. But $1 billion, I would tie that in with the whole world sense. So things like climate change are happening. And even if you don't believe climate change, my saying is if climate change is a load of crap and we make all these changes and we become sustainable and all of that, there's no cost. The world won't blow up because we looked after it. But if we're wrong and climate change is a thing and we don't do anything about it, there's massive consequences. So I would be going about making sustainable communities, communities where people had meaning. So, there'd be a lot of that going on. There would be programs and education from a young age of how to deal with things that go wrong in life, because the fact is things will go wrong in life. Even if you have the perfect life, one day your parents are going to die, or a family member, or your partner, or something's going to happen. So we need these coping mechanisms no matter how perfect we make the world. A lot on education, a lot on finding meaning and creating purposeful work. So, and what is work anyway? I mean, it wouldn't be the 5-day week, 9 till 5, like everyone does. I know that society is already starting to change that. And I know countries, I think Finland just approved 4-day work weeks of 6 hours or something like that. I'd be putting a lot more women. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I think it's the Finland Prime Minister. She's a 35-year-old mum. and she's doing awesome things. I think men for too long have, you know, taken this world for granted and pushed people too far. So I think there'd be a lot more women in charge. And I think, yeah, just building that sustainable world that helps everyone as a collective, not just the rich. And yeah, I think with a lot more meaning and a lot more of a happy workforce, I think that would really help go a long way. Yeah.
Awesome, Steph. I appreciate it, and I certainly think we could have a full another episode diving deep into those topics, because it's truly something that could make drastic changes within our world, and I'm glad you were able to share a little bit of the insight of what you would do in order to counteract some of the mental health challenges we do face within our society today. So I appreciate that, and I'd just love to thank you for taking this time to be with me today and sharing your insights, sharing your work. It truly was a pleasure to dive a little bit into your own experiences and your book Redesign Your Mind, and learning about the ways that you're navigating helping yourself and helping others throughout the society today. So thank you for taking the time with me today.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. And thanks, guys, for listening.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you guys all for listening. This was season 2, episode number 9 with Stefan Moralia. And if you haven't listened to part 1 of the episode, please be sure to go tune in. We speak more about mental health, anxiety, and depression before this episode, where we spoke specifically on Steph's book, Redesign Your Mind. Within any of the resources that we spoke about today, you can find them below in the show notes. And please let us know what you guys think of this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and review, and let us know what you guys think. Thank you all again for listening. This was a great episode, Steph. I appreciate you taking the time with me.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Mental Insights Podcast. Make sure to reach out to today's guest or myself if you need any advice, guidance, or support in your life today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and review to this podcast so we know what you thought of this episode. I look forward to being in touch with you all in the next episode. I hope you all have a wonderful day.